Hi, how are you? This is Amma Duncan. I am a corporate trainer, business coach, and founder of the Fabulous Woman Network. Also, the hostess of Mind Your Business. This is a weekly podcast, video podcast that I bring on YouTube every Tuesday at 12 noon GMT so that we can talk about business, so that we can learn more skills, strategies, and tools to help us do businesses better so we can create wealth and impact people. Today, I have the opportunity to interview a very wonderful, fabulous woman I have been following for quite a long time. Well, I've met her a few times as well. I've been admiring her strength, the way she does the things she does. I'm like, oh my God, I need that kind of courage, you know? And so today I get to sit at her feet and have a beautiful conversation with her. Please watch, let me know if there are any lessons that you've gleaned from this. If you have questions or comments, you may also reach out in the comments section and then just share. And then I'm going to add a link, of course, to how to reach her, so you can reach her if you have any further questions for her. So let me read her bio, as usual, of my phone. So she's Golda Addo. Golda is a trainer, researcher, and strategist for businesses or projects looking to develop or improve in the areas of monitoring and evaluation, communications, results-based management, policies, and structures. She has spent 13 years consulting for various foreign donors, government top officers, CSOs, and private, local, and international projects across Benin, Nigeria, Liberia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Tunisia, Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, of course, Ghana, etc., as well as worked with top government offices in the United Kingdom in all of the above areas. She's actually an International Leaders Program alumni and also a member of the Climate Change Committee on the same program, all of which are hosted by the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, that's FCDO, of the UK, and work on global issues actively. She was also the chair of Gender for Results, an AfDB-hosted platform for African development from 2013 to 2016, where she worked with over 100 women from all over Africa to determine results-based approaches to improving GESI on the continent. She has sustained transformational education support and governance and leadership training since then for many females and communities across Ghana and the West African sub-region. She's heavily invested in the development of communities and disenfranchised communities and runs Span Gold Consultancy as well as She Aid to solve most of the challenges in these areas. She works with many Africans and Ghanaians across the continent and the country through data-centered and results-focused strategies and approaches. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Golda. Thank you so much for taking time to join me this morning for this conversation. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know that I'm going to glean so much from you because I've been following you, I believe, forever. Maybe perhaps the first day you landed on Facebook, I started following you. And I really have to commend your strength. I admire your boldness, the ease with which you talk about things that you feel is just not right. We all see it's not right, but some of us are like, you know, let's just sit somewhere and mind my own business. But for you, you put yourself out there, and it's really nice. It's inspiring to look at women like you and learn from you. I want to find out, have you always been this bold, even as a child? Tell us a bit about your childhood.
I from what my parents tell me, it seems I have been quite outspoken. When they're talking about me as a child, they always tell me I was not someone who liked being addressed as a baby. You know, I like to be addressed as one of the adults. You know, I want to be engaged on that level because I have questions. I want to understand why I should do something. And if what you're saying doesn't align well with what I think, then I have more questions. But I also have to give the gratitude to my parents, how they raised all of us up. My parents come from large families, you know, and back then it means that education is not always a priority. It's about what can be done for who it can be done for. And the children have to fend for themselves mostly. But somehow they managed to rise through all that. And then they gave us a very sharp sense of how to navigate life, you know, how to stand up and be seen and speak up. And the one thing that my father always taught us, because I suspect because he had 3 girls before the boy came, he felt he needed to, you know, get us to imbibe certain things that he felt will make us survive. And he would always tell you, always think through carefully about what you want to do. And when you decide it, stand by it. When it's wrong, accept that it's wrong, but always stand by what you want to do or what you've done. And of course, in order to do that, you need to be extremely bold about things. You can't just keep changing your mind. You know, so I would say mostly I've been this way.
That's nice to know. And you mentioned something when you talked about sort of like leading from the corner, sitting somewhere, but pushing others. And to be honest, that is how I see you. You know, a lot of strides have been made for women. Like now I get to drive, which I take for granted. I get to own my house or land or whatever I feel like as a woman I should have, or as a human being. But it hasn't always been like that, right? There was a point in our lives where, I hate to say it, but some people thought we were second-class citizens or properties and all that. And every time I think about women who have made it easy for all of us to enjoy these things, you are one of the people that come to mind. You know, like I see you as a woman behind the scenes doing things so that people like Amma Duncan and the Fabulous Woman Network can go about doing all these things. But nobody knows the kind of work and policies that, you know, and the arguments and dialogues and all that has to be done in the boardroom or wherever, so that other people can come out and do what it is that they do. And I appreciate you for that. Although I don't know exactly what you do, I've heard about your work through some of your colleagues and all. And today I would want you to please educate us a bit about your advocacy work with women.
Okay. It's been very adventurous, very packed with activities. So right out of university, I decided that there was it did not make sense for me to enter mainstream work or office, because their expectations were things I could absolutely not live with. You know, you are good in school, so why not join the bank? Because back in 2004, it was a height of a lot of the females being taken into the banks, lots of job opportunities back then. And the idea was, you know, you can join and make a mark or find a nice office. Or I was interning as a paralegal with one of the law chambers, and it was like, oh, just work your way up, become a lawyer. But it was very difficult for me to feel at home in those places because, as you said, there were very obvious discriminatory approaches and attitudes to females. And if you're a young female, then there's a double burden. And if you're a young Black female, then it makes it triple. Yeah. So I realized I was very good at engaging and breaking down a lot of the kind of socialized constructs about females. I was able to engage many people, and in asking them questions, we end up breaking it down to the bare minimum, and some of them saying, okay, well, you have a point there. We should probably look at how we view things and do it differently. I was able to raise points where we could see the greater benefits of having women. In the short term, you might say, oh, she'll go off and have children, or she'll get married and change, or she might not work as fast as the men. But in the medium to long term, the attention to detail, the commitment, the loyalty, the higher levels of trustworthiness, they were more valuable, to most places. And I began pushing very hard on the fact that women are more present, they're everywhere. If you're talking about environmental issues, if you're talking about taking care of people, if you're talking about even in politics and spreading the message, women are very critical and at the heart of everything. Agriculture, farming, marketing, research, even people who go out on the field to sign people up for things. Females were in everything. And I kept on saying that the most companies keep talking about return on investment, but we don't realize that there's return on equity. And equity, not just in terms of business equity, but gender equity, right? So I started pushing that message that when you have females in moral positions, the higher up you go, there's a higher return on everything, not just on your investment, on your efforts. And then I realized that I needed to make the claim consistently. Every time I ended up in a room, there were very stereotypical approaches to things. And when you break them, you are threatened. People don't realize you're threatening you, but they insinuate your inability to stay long in that place simply for not accepting that stereotypical treatment. And I realized watching how my aunties and my grandmothers and the females in our family raised the men and related to the men, I realized that actually there were more successful ways in going around dealing with men than what the books would tell us to do. The books would say, you need to fight for your rights. You need to demand it because it's yours to take. You need to, as a feminist, you need to go about things in a certain way. And I realized that actually when you want results, context matters, perspective matters, and there are very individualized situations for every situation you're pushing. So if you don't make time to understand who you're dealing with and their context and their perspective, you can push all you want and you might make headway, but it will always revert back to the old thing because you haven't reached the roots. Exactly. Right? So I began improving the ways in which I advocated by learning how to reach every man that I felt was in the way or was part of the problem, and reaching them in a way that if their grandmother reached them, if their mother reached them, their sister, their wife, their daughter reached them, they will not be able to hit them, slap them, talk nasty at them. They would be forced to listen and pay attention and improve. And that's the approach that I began taking. And I realized that actually men and women in positions where we could improve the gender equality, they're human. They're human, and we need to find the humane ways to reach them without having them put up their defenses, but rather open up and say, okay, I want to listen to you. And that led to me going through a lot of spaces, joining a lot of organizations, getting on a lot of campaigns and projects. It's been, I'll say, about 13 years of doing that. If I want to go through all of that, we'll never finish. But every year I learn more. Every time I get better at it and I understand better what we're dealing with. And it has led me to appreciate much better just how powerful we are in the realm of things. And how, based on maybe the societal and global pressures, we have not yet, at least in the African space, I think there's a level of anxiety that we have not yet overcome as females so that we can resolve the gender issues once and for all, right? So most of the headways we've made are because of some of the different approaches. And it takes a while, but it builds up. It builds up.
Yeah, definitely built up. And I see that you are currently, I mean, apart from the fact that you have your own consultancy, which we will talk about shortly, you're also involved in She Aid Ghana. And speaking of women in politics, do you have any political ambitions yourself?
I never used to until about 2016.
Okay.
When I decided that, we keep on hearing about Theodore Roosevelt's quote about the man in the arena. It's the man who gets into the arena and battles and fights, who at the end of the day can be called someone who really stood up for what he wanted, not the people in the audience looking on, right? But there's also the woman in the arena. And I have spent so much time behind the scenes supporting policy, people in parliamentary office, people in presidential spaces, state entities, and advising people who are going into politics. And I felt I had spent so much time advising and constantly failing to get them to at least take most of the years of experience and lessons that should guide them. Most of them would listen up to the point where they feel it's no more useful, because for them, it's about what they feel is useful. It's not about the logic or the data of it, right? And it always ends up poorly. Either they lose or something fails and the whole thing falls apart. And after years of doing that, I realized I need to stop trying to help the men to get in there, because I'm also capable. And I decided in 2016 that I would see when will be the right time for me to do this. And I've decided that 2024, I will stand for the presidential candidacy. And so I would say yes, I have political intentions.
I like what you said. I am also capable. And I got goosebumps when you spoke those words. I just got goosebumps. Yeah, because you so are, and so are all these other wonderful, fabulous women out there with similar ambitions as you. But you know, a lot of us, and maybe I should speak for myself here, we fear the criticisms, the dragging of people's faces in the mud, the embarrassment, you did it, you didn't do it, and all these. And you know, for me, I think that is really what will make me say, oh, no, forget it. You know, but for bold women like yourself, you're like, you know what, I am going to be that woman in the arena, and I admire that. I really do, and I really wish you the very best. I know
Thank you.
I mean, when it blows up, we will all be there and we do the best that we can. But you know, like some of us are chicken. Let me just declare it. Chicken people who just hide in the bucket. But the good thing is that the more we see women like you putting yourselves out there in spite of all that, the more it encourages some of us to be like, okay, Amma, if Golda can do it, so can you. Obviously, I don't have I'm not going to run for president or anything, but at least then maybe I can speak up a bit more when it comes to political issues, and even be interested in finding out what is happening. Because for some of us, we've just closed our minds. It's like, forget it, nothing political, you know. However, like you're saying, it actually affects everything we do. It affects everything, every single day. So we need to be interested. So thank you. And I wish you the very best.
Thank you, Amma.
You're welcome. Now let's talk about your business as well. I know that you run Span Gold Consultancy. Please tell us about what you do.
I set up Span Gold to provide services in communications, education, and results-based managerial approaches. I tried to make it a little broad because, we spoke about having to register certain entities and ending up, having multiple ones you're not really using. And I realized also that actually there are so many complications with running organizations that it was important for me to do this one in a format that enabled me to run it more realistically. So I set it up as a sole proprietorship, and it allowed me to be able to run it much better than running it as a huge organization or a large partnership. And what I've been doing with it is to carry out a lot of my consultancy work, because I provide a lot of results-based management advice and research and communication support to quite a number of small projects and entities. Some of them involve trainings as well. And because of my multi-sectorial experience, one thing usually leads into the other. You go to do communications, and then you end up providing evaluation support or project management supervision, and then it filters into having to train people so that they can actually do the job, right? So that's what it's mostly been used for. And more recently during COVID, when the situation about children having to stay at home became a huge nationwide problem. My experience homeschooling my boys, I decided to use a consultancy to begin training tutors who can be matched to families to help the children at least keep up with lessons and do much better even outside of their mainstream school. So I've been using the consultancy for quite a number of these things for the past 8 years now.
Wow. 8 years. Wow. Yes. Wow. Yeah. And so, I know you came to Kumasi also to support some parents who were interested in homeschooling. Yes. Let's talk about homeschooling. Is it picking up in Ghana? I used to have this perception that, that's an American thing. That's a US thing. But then I found out that you were doing it. A couple of friends as well were doing. I'm like, it's a big deal here. Tell us about it, please.
It's a big deal, but it's still very small because, there are two factors at play. The apprehension from a lot of parents about, is it legal? And then the apprehension about, if I start it, what does it mean for the future of my child's education, right? And also generally, most Ghanaians feel that education must definitely be in a school building. We don't look at education as that broad space of attaining knowledge and skill sets. We look at it as going to school. So homeschooling, it's not as huge yet, but over the past year, it has really blossomed. And the Constitution does give parents the right to select distance learning, right? Or digital learning for their children. The most important thing that a parent must do is to ensure that your child is learning, right? If they are not physically able to attend a school, if they are not, if you don't have the means to sign them up for school because you don't have money, you must ensure that they are learning, which is why certain children end up being put in apprenticeships in some of the rural areas, because then the parents might not be able to afford school, but they know that next door to them, there's someone who is into car mechanics, is into baking, vocational skills or something, and the child has to go somewhere and learn. And that's why also the country has national adult education facilities, because they realize that some people do not have the opportunity to learn growing up until they are adult and they can afford to, right? So, I mean, fortunately, there's that foundation for permitting homeschooling, but it needs to be shaped up because most people we provide the facilities to, some of them have the assumption that homeschooling is not structured, but it's highly structured. It needs to be even more structured than the mainstream school, because if you don't do that, it won't go on well. So it's immensely structured. You have a target that you want to reach. You have a timeline that you want to reach that target for, and you have a plan for getting all those lessons, whether you're using one tutor or several. There's a whole structure to it. And when parents fail to take this into consideration and feel homeschooling is a teacher coming home after the child comes from mainstream school to do top up, or they feel it's holiday classes, or they feel it's the parent themselves teaching the child everything instead of having a tutor or experienced teacher come and do that. When they go through these perceptions and they implement them, that's where they get it very wrong, right? Because homeschooling is much more. It's much more than that. It's basically an entire educational journey that is being run out of a place other than the school structure, right? You know, that's about it.
I think for a lot of us parents, or people like me, what we worry about is, will I have the time? But then I'm looking at you. I know you are quite busy. I'm not in your life, but I'm assuming, maybe I could be wrong. How are you able to make time to homeschool your kids?
So I hire people to do it. That's always, a lot of people tend to believe you need to do it yourself. What you need to do is to have a plan and a structure that the tutor must follow, right? And if you're fortunate enough to have a tutor who can help you build a plan because maybe you don't know how to do it, then you're even more fortunate. But I always tell people, even if you don't know how to draw the plan, you need to know the destination your child has to get to. When you're homeschooling, what is the ultimate objective? Is it because you want the child to finish faster? Is it because you want them to attain extra skill sets? Or what is the motivation for the homeschooling? And when do you want it to be achieved? And you need to use that to draw a plan and say, we are going to start off slowly, then we're going to up the pace, and then we're going to go full stream. And then by this time, we'll do a mock test and see how it's going. And then you get it. And before you start, sometimes parents go into it because they have no choice. The child might be constantly ill and not able to keep up with school, or they might have special learning abilities, or they might have challenges with learning. It could be various reasons, right? But if your child is okay with mainstream school, and you are not being forced to do it, but you want to do it, you also need to ask yourself at which point in time they will write the next standardized official exam. Because in Ghana, the difference between Ghana and most countries that practice homeschooling is that most countries have the opportunity to have a standard exam for the child at probably any point in time in the year. But for Ghana, the most reliable ones are the ones that are run by the Cambridge system or the IB system, that's the American system, or, one or two other ones, the popular ones that the Indians might run, or that other foreign communities might run for themselves in the country. So you realize that a lot of parents who come to us for homeschooling, either they are close to writing the WASI or the BEC, so they know if I take the child out of school in 2 years, they will be ready to write maybe a bit early than their peers, or they might be more confident when they're writing. or they're bringing the child at a point where the child can write any of the British or American exams as private candidates. And that means that even if they take the child out of school at a young age, they know that in 2 years, as private candidates, they can sign up with the school and they'll write the exam and they'll keep on going, because you need certain standardized tests along the journey. And that standardized test allows you to be able to return the child back to any school mainstream if you feel like doing that, because they have a reference point of performance, right? They are not just taking your word for it that they can do it. And that's usually the core of most of the parents' apprehension. If I take the child out of school, what happens when they need to show proof of what they are learning? Exactly. And that's the core of it. So that's how we go about it in the country. We usually advise people about how these things go, and then they know how to prepare themselves towards it. And the good thing is that children usually get to finish 3-4 years ahead of their peers when they do homeschooling, because the focus is on them. Yeah. They're not waiting for anybody. It's customized to their needs, and they're able to move much faster.
Yeah. And how about the socialization bits that they get with a regular school? Yeah. How is that managed at home for them?
It's always a challenge in the sense that you need to not take it for granted. You will need to sign the child up for, let's say, holiday classes or programs, right?
Okay.
Fortunately, there's never a lack of those things. Some weekends, some schools might be organizing a trip somewhere. You could build relationships with certain schools and say, when you're doing group outings, I'm happy to pay so that my child can join your group. Okay. Or when there's holidays, you can look at the most interesting ones and sign the child up ahead of time. They get the opportunity to be introduced to more social programs during the weekend, because sometimes you might need to travel with them, whether it's local travel or something, or they might get to spend time with family members while they're still learning, right? So you have to be intentional about the socialization. And the upside to it is that whereas they would have had to struggle through quite a lot of the normal social structures, growing up, you need to go through bullying, a bit of bullying. You need to you need to go through a bit of intimidation, right? You'll be exposed to things that will shake you, psychologically, right? And sometimes a lot of peer pressure as well, whether you want to be accepted into certain groups or friendships, or whether you're okay on your own. Sometimes a lot of these experiences don't go too well. And we end up having teenagers and young adults who need a lot of help processing it. Because until their early 20s, a lot of us, we don't have full frontal lobe development. Our decision making is constantly growing because our brain is still growing until our late teens or early 20s. And so not every young adult who enters university is okay, right? And sometimes the upside is that when you do your intentional socialization, it helps the child because their confidence levels might be higher. Their need for group acceptance might be less. So they make better decisions. They are more confident in themselves. Their understanding of situations might also be, more mature. And those are the upsides. Yeah. But when you have a child who is extremely outdoor, and loves socialization, then you will need to do much more, to help that child.
As you're speaking, I keep getting more and more questions, and I just looked at this. No, Amma. And I'm sure there's someone who probably watched this and say, I also have questions. So I didn't even know I could homeschool my child in Ghana. Imagine being able to travel with your kids without worrying about their education. So this is definitely something we need more information on. And I'm going to add the link to either your website or anything that will help us reach you, because I think that more people will have more questions on this. Now, before we wrap up, there are a few questions that I like to ask. Actually, before that question, there was something I was dying to ask. How do you happy yourself?
Constantly. I do a lot of things throughout the day to make myself happy. Sometimes I just take random breaks.
Okay.
That 5-minute break, and I have these color books, and I just look for the most complicated ones in the book. And those 5 minutes, I just happily color myself to some happy point.
Goodness. And even your face just changed as you're talking about it. So it's something you really love doing.
I love doing it. It makes me happy to just color, all these little things, those 5 minutes, because it really helps me to distress. I love going to the cinema. So COVID really disturbed me, because I just love going at a time where probably most people might not be there. And there are very few people in there. You have this whole big screen and the sound effects, and you're just sitting there watching and eating your popcorn.
And enjoying.
I love doing that. I love reading and watching these little weird documentaries about things that you could never imagine. Sometimes you chance on all these very unusual documentaries, and wow, this is very interesting. I do a lot of that. I love going to the beach, just walking there with the water. I love doing that a lot. And sometimes I just love driving out of town, like very early in the morning, just very quiet road, cold air, just slowly driving. I can do two hours out and back.
Wow. That's
it
beautiful.
It distresses me. Yeah.
And as you are speaking, I'm just imagining the Ebrim Mountains and the cold, the chill.
The fog. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
like
really
to do
fantastic.
That. Yes.
Thank you for sharing. I'm sure you are giving some of us ideas of, different things we should try, like the coloring,
Yeah.
All right. So now I have a few fill in the blank questions for you. I'm reading it off my phone here. 3 questions. So I say the beginning of it, and then you finish it off. Okay. First one. If I could advise my younger self in one short sentence, I would say,
be more patient. I used to be very impatient. I would constantly be asking myself, but why can't you see this? But why can't you understand this? And it would have saved me a lot of stress. I think I'll say be more patient.
Be more patient. Thank you. The second one, I am fabulous because...
Oh my goodness, because I'm fabulous, right? Why else would I be fabulous? Because I'm fabulous.
That's a good one. I am fabulous because I'm fabulous. Deal with it.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Thank you. And then the final one book that has greatly helped me in business is...
I wouldn't rely, I don't have one book. I actually rely on a lot of reports. If you ask me for one book, I wouldn't really know which, but what I will say is that delving into a lot of reports from a lot of foreign donors has been the biggest source of business insights for me. I don't remember the last time I bought a business book, because there's so much more insights and information in a lot of the reports that American, British, Asian, and Arabian partners put out. So It's a bit unusual, but
yes, and I like that. And I'm as you're speaking, I'm thinking actually, yeah, like it's really good to have access to, let's say, UNDP report on something we did in Africa or something, an area you are interested in, because then you find out the gaps, you find out what other people are doing, what's working, and then. So absolutely, I love that. I love the whole. It's so avant-garde, but I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And so, where would we, for instance, get access to such reports?
Oh, the good thing is that most of these people put it on their website.
Their website.
It's just go to the World Bank website, go to the IMF website, go to the OECD overall website, even Forbes, right? They also stockpile a lot of things. And some of the foreign media houses, right, also put out a lot. And the UN spaces. Oh my God. So many reports.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Pa, for that insight. Now you've teased that's about what you're doing with She8, SPAN, and even now the reports and all. Where do people find you so that we can get more and more resources from you?
I'm always available on Facebook inbox, right? Find me inbox, or send me an email at Golda Addo at gmail.com, or g.addo at spangold.org, right? And when you reach me inbox in all these places, I'm happy to engage.
Excellent. And with regards to the homeschooling, does Spangold have any upcoming events? Or I know you organize events for parents. Do you have any such coming up?
We try and do major ones biannually, but also people reach out regularly. And I've realized that instead of stockpiling to do major programs, it's better to engage people with their issues as they come up. So anybody who has any questions, just hit us inbox.
Right, we'll do that. And I'm sure people who are listening and have really gleaned from this and want more, they will reach out to you. Golda has shared the email, and I'm going to add it in the link as well, plus your website. I want to say thank you so much, Golda. When I was planning this interview, actually, the main reason I reached out, we didn't even talk about that. I thought it was going to be more about politics and women. But then also, in addition to that, the conversation about homeschooling personally spoke to me. You know, I'm beginning to see all the possibilities. And for other people out there, I'm sure they can see it as well. So thank you so much for making time to sit and chat with me. I know that there'll be more opportunities for us to do other things. And thank you for using FabHub. I'll never forget what you said. You said it's an emotionally intelligent space.
Yes.
And I love that. And you see, we are moving to a new space, and every time we are thinking about what to do, I'm thinking we have to make it emotionally intelligent.
Yes, it's very considerate of the kind of vibes you want to be in when you're working or you're meeting. And it tells how much thought you put into setting it up.
Oh, I'm blushing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Golda. And I wish you the very best in all that it is you're doing, especially with your political journey as well. It's exciting to watch someone I've been following go through that. And I wish you the very best, praying that all goes well with you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, how was it? I have really been blessed by this interview with Golda. I've considered things that in the past I wouldn't have even, like I wouldn't have seen it from that perspective. And I hope you've been blessed too. Please let me know in the comments how it went for you or how it was like for you. And of course, if you have any questions for Golda about homeschooling or about politics or any of these things that she's doing in her consultancy, please reach out to her. I've got the link to reach out to her. She mentioned you can also reach out to her in the on Facebook in the messenger as well. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, if you need help with your own business to plan, execute, and achieve your business goals, reach out to me, book a discovery call so we can talk further about how we can help you. Okay? Until the next time that we come your way with Mind Your Business, it is time.